Imagine waking up inside the richest city on Earth. Walls so wide that two chariots could race side by side across the top. Walls so tall that enemies who saw them simply turned around and marched home. For over 100 years, no one had even tried to break them. Golden temples catch the first light of morning. Markets overflow with spices, silk, and silver from 100 conquered lands. In the streets below, a king walks who believes with every fiber of his being that his city cannot fall. Not to famine, not to siege, not to any army on the face of the earth. This is Babylon, the most powerful city the world has ever seen. And then, before sunrise, Babylon was gone. Not after years of siege, not after an epic battle, not after a bloody invasion, but in a single night. How does the greatest city on Earth disappear, almost without a fight?
To understand how Babylon fell, you first have to understand what made it feel unbreakable. Picture the Euphrates River, wide and slow, cutting straight through the heart of the city. Boats drift along its surface, loaded with grain, wine, and cedar wood. On either bank rise walls so massive that ancient writers struggled to describe them without sounding like they were exaggerating. They weren't. Some ancient sources claim the outer walls stretched wide enough to race a 4-horse chariot along the top. Modern archaeologists debate the exact numbers, but one thing is clear: nothing like this had been built before. Towers rose every few dozen paces. Moats surrounded the outer defenses. This wasn't just a city. It was a fortress the size of a small nation. And then there was the gate. Deep blue tiles, glazed and gleaming, cover its towering surface.
Golden dragons and bulls march across it in perfect rows, sacred animals guarding the entrance to the city of the gods. This is the Ishtar Gate, dedicated to the goddess of love and war. And it isn't just an entrance, it's a statement. It says the gods themselves protect this place. Walk further inside, and the wealth becomes almost overwhelming. Temples rise on stepped platforms called ziggurats, their summits reaching toward the sky, where priests once believed heaven and earth touched. Markets hum with merchants speaking a dozen languages. Craftsmen work bronze, gold, and lapis lazuli into jewelry fit for royalty. This is a city that draws people from every direction, because Babylon isn't just powerful,
It's irresistible. Much of this splendor comes from one man,
King Nebuchadnezzar II.
He didn't just rule Babylon, he rebuilt it, expanded it, and turned it into the beating heart of the known world. Under his reign, temples are restored, walls are reinforced, and the city swells with new construction on a scale rarely attempted before. He wants Babylon to be remembered forever as the greatest city humanity has ever built. And then there are the gardens. Terraced levels of green, cascading down like a mountain built by human hands, irrigated by some ingenious system that lifts water from the river to the very top. Ancient writers, centuries later, will call them one of the 7 wonders of the world.
But here's where the story gets complicated. No Babylonian text, no inscription, no archaeological dig has ever confirmed the Hanging Gardens actually stood in Babylon. Some historians believe they existed in a different city entirely, perhaps Nineveh. Others believe they were a genuine Babylonian creation that simply left no trace. The truth is, after thousands of years of buried sand and shifting rivers, we may never know for certain. What we do know is this: whether myth
or memory, the legend of the gardens reflects something real. A city so wealthy, so advanced, so beyond comparison that people couldn't stop imagining new wonders hidden inside its walls. By the time Nebuchadnezzar dies, Babylon isn't just a capital. It's a symbol.
A symbol of permanence, of power that cannot be shaken. Its granaries hold enough grain to feed the city for years, not months. Its walls have never been breached by force. Its priests perform rituals believed to keep the gods themselves on Babylon's side. Which is exactly why, decades later, when whispers begin to spread about a new conqueror rising in the east, almost no one inside the city believes he could ever reach them. Let them come, the people of Babylon think. Let them try.
Far to the east, in the rugged highlands of Persia, a different kind of story is unfolding. A young leader named Cyrus is beginning to build something the world has never quite seen before. He starts small, a regional king ruling a modest kingdom under the shadow of larger powers. But Cyrus has ambition that refuses to stay contained. Within a few short years, he does the unthinkable. He turns against the very empire he once served, the Medes, and defeats them. He doesn't stop there. One by one, kingdoms that seemed untouchable begin to fall before him. Lydia, famous for its fabulous wealth under King Croesus, crumbles. City after city along the ancient trade routes surrenders rather than face his armies. Word spreads that Cyrus doesn't just conquer through force. He conquers through reputation. Enemies hear stories of his campaigns and, in many cases, simply open their gates before a single arrow is fired. He shows mercy to those who surrender. He respects local customs and local gods rather than destroying them. It's a strategy almost no conqueror before him has fully understood. Fear alone doesn't build an empire that lasts. But even as kingdom after kingdom bends to him, one city remains untouched: Babylon. And Babylon isn't just another target. It's the greatest prize in the entire region. The wealthiest, the most fortified, the most legendary city on Earth. Whoever controls Babylon controls the trade routes, the grain, the gold, and the loyalty of an empire that stretches in every direction. But here's the problem Cyrus faces. Babylon doesn't just have walls, it has time. Grain reserves inside the city could feed its population for years, not months. A prolonged siege, the kind that starves a city into submission, simply won't work here. The Euphrates flows directly through the city, meaning fresh water is never a concern. And those walls, thick enough to race chariots along the top, have never once been broken by outside force. Military commanders across the ancient world know the same brutal math. Starve them out, and you'll starve first. Attack the walls directly, and you lose thousands of men for nothing. Babylon isn't just difficult to conquer, it might be impossible. And the man sitting on Babylon's throne believes exactly that. Confidence radiates through the city like heat off desert stone. Priests continue their rituals undisturbed. Merchants continue trading as if no army in the world could interrupt daily life inside those walls. Let them come, the people still say. Let them try. But Cyrus has not built an empire out of kingdoms that quit easily by making the same mistakes as everyone before him. He studies, he watches, he waits. Because somewhere in his mind, a very different kind of plan is beginning to take shape. One that has nothing to do with breaking down walls at all. If no army can defeat Babylon by force, what else is there? Inside Babylon, the final days unfold like any other. The man now occupying the throne is Belshazzar, son of King Nabonidus. Nabonidus himself is far from the city.
Some accounts say pursuing religious devotions in the desert oasis of Taimah, leaving his son to manage the capital in his absence. And on this particular night, Belshazzar decides to celebrate.
According to the book of Daniel, a grand feast fills the palace. Wine flows from sacred vessels, vessels said to have been looted years earlier from the temple in Jerusalem. Belshazzar raises a golden cup in a toast to the gods of Babylon, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, that an army stands somewhere beyond the walls. Then, according to the story, something impossible happens. A hand appears. No body, no figure, just fingers moving slowly across the plaster wall, carving letters no one in the room can explain. The room falls silent.
Servants freeze. Wine cups stop mid-air. Even the king, the story says, turns pale with terror. Wise men are summoned. None can read the words. Finally, a Hebrew exile named Daniel is brought before the king, and he delivers a warning that chills the entire hall. Babylon's days are numbered. Its kingdom will be divided. Its time has run out. That very night, the account says, Belshazzar is killed, and the city falls. It's one of the most famous scenes in ancient literature, but here's what modern historians want you to understand.
The writing on the wall appears only in the book of Daniel, written as scripture, not as a court record or a Babylonian chronicle. No Babylonian tablet, no Persian inscription describes any mysterious message appearing during a royal feast. That doesn't necessarily mean nothing dramatic happened that night, but it does mean this particular detail belongs to religious tradition, not confirmed history. So what does the actual historical record say? The most reliable source we have is the Nabonidus Chronicle, a Babylonian document written close to the events themselves. And what it describes is, in some ways, even more astonishing than the legend. It says Babylon fell without a major battle at all. Now here's where Cyrus's true genius reveals itself. For months, maybe longer, Persian engineers had been studying the one weakness even Babylon's builders hadn't fully accounted for: the Euphrates River itself. The river didn't just provide water. It ran directly beneath the city walls, through channels and gates designed to let boats pass in and out. According to later Greek historians, Herodotus, and separately Xenophon, Cyrus ordered his engineers to dig new channels upstream, diverting the river's flow into a massive basin. Slowly, methodically, without Babylon ever realizing what was happening beyond its horizon, the water level inside the city began to drop. Herodotus and Xenophon don't fully agree on the details. Herodotus describes the diversion as the key to a surprise infiltration. Xenophon adds dramatic details of a nighttime festival distracting the guards. Historians today treat both accounts with caution. They were written decades after the fact, by writers who never witnessed the event themselves, and who sometimes blended fact with storytelling. But the core idea lines up disturbingly well with the Babylonian Chronicle. The river dropped, and soldiers crossed where no one thought soldiers could cross. Picture it. Night falls over Babylon. Torches flicker along the top of the walls, but the guards patrol as they always have, watching the roads, watching the horizon, waiting for an army that never arrives from the direction they expect. Beneath them, the riverbed that once ran deep and fast has slowed to a trickle, and in that darkness, soldiers begin to move. Not over the walls, under them. Silent, careful, stepping through mud and shallow water where the mighty Euphrates used to flow. passing beneath defenses built to repel an attack that was never meant to come from below. By the time anyone inside the city realizes what's happening, it's already too late. Gates open from within, whether by treachery, confusion, or simple failure to expect an enemy already standing in the streets. The sources don't fully agree. What is clear is this: there is no long battle, no desperate last stand at the walls, no siege lasting years, as everyone had once assumed would be necessary. The Nabonidus Chronicle describes something almost eerily quiet. Babylon's own defenders, so confident in the impossibility of an attack, offer little resistance at all. The city that could never fall falls in a single night. By morning, Persian soldiers walk streets that hours earlier belonged to the most secure empire on earth, and the people of Babylon wake up to find that everything they believed about their own invincibility was wrong.
Dawn breaks over a city that no longer belongs to itself. And yet, something unexpected happens. There is no burning, no mass slaughter in the streets, no temples torn down in triumph. For a city that had just witnessed the fall of the greatest empire on earth, Babylon experiences something historians still find remarkable. Almost nothing changes. Cyrus enters the city not as a destroyer, but as something closer to a new custodian. Babylonian priests continue their rituals. Local officials remain in their positions. The markets reopen. The temples stay standing. It's a strategy almost no conqueror before him had fully understood, and it's about to define his entire legacy. This is where the Cyrus cylinder enters the story. Discovered in the ruins of Babylon in the 19th century, this small clay artifact, covered in cuneiform script, records Cyrus's own account of his conquest. In it, he claims to have been welcomed by the god Marduk himself, presented as a liberator rather than an invader. He describes restoring temples, returning displaced peoples to their homelands, and respecting the customs of the city he now rules. Some later interpretations have called it the world's first declaration of human rights. Most historians today urge caution with that label. It's a royal inscription meant to legitimize Cyrus's rule, not a legal charter in the modern sense. But even with that caveat, the cylinder reveals something genuinely unusual for its time: a conqueror actively choosing persuasion over annihilation. And it works. Rather than facing years of rebellion, Cyrus finds a population willing, in many cases, to accept Persian rule. Babylon becomes one of the great administrative centers of the growing Persian Empire, its wealth and infrastructure absorbed rather than destroyed. But permanence, as Babylon itself once believed in so completely, is never guaranteed. Over the following centuries, the city's fortunes rise and fall. It remains an important center under Persian rule, and later, when Alexander the Great sweeps through the region, he even considers making Babylon the capital of his own empire, drawn to its legendary status. He dies before that vision is realized. After Alexander, his generals divide his conquests, and Babylon's importance slowly begins to fade. New cities rise nearby, Seleucia, then later Ctesiphon, drawing away trade, population, and political attention. The Euphrates itself, the very river that once made this city untouchable, gradually begins to shift course over the centuries, as rivers do. Bit by bit, the city empties. Not through fire, not through conquest, but through time, neglect, and the slow pull of history moving elsewhere. By the early centuries of the Common Era, the city that once held the world's attention has become little more than scattered ruins and memory. Its temples crumbling, its markets silent, its walls slowly swallowed by desert sand. The city that could never fall didn't vanish in a single moment, after all. It simply faded.
Today, the ruins of Babylon lie just outside the modern city of Hilla in central Iraq, roughly 50 miles south of Baghdad. What remains is only a fraction of what once stood. Centuries of flooding, looting, and shifting rivers have erased much of the original city. Mud brick, the primary material Babylonians built with, simply doesn't survive the way stone does. Entire sections of the city have dissolved back into the earth they came from. And yet, enough remains to astonish.
Archaeologists, beginning with major excavations in the early 20th century, led by German researcher Robert Koldewey, uncovered the foundations of temples, sections of the processional way, and remnants of the city's famous walls. Perhaps most remarkably, they recovered the glazed brick fragments of the Ishtar Gate itself, pieces so well preserved that a full reconstruction now stands in a museum in Berlin, its blue tiles and golden animals still visible after thousands of years buried in sand.
Other reconstructions, some more controversial than others, have taken place directly on site over the decades, including efforts in the 20th century to rebuild portions of the ancient walls using modern brick. Some historians praise these efforts for preserving public interest in the site. Others argue they've blurred the line between ancient structure and modern imagination, making it harder to know, just by looking, what is truly ancient and what isn't. The Hanging Gardens remain exactly where we left them, nowhere confirmed at all. Despite decades of searching, no definitive irrigation system, no unmistakable garden terrace has ever been found beneath Babylon's soil. The mystery, much like the gardens themselves, continues to grow in the human imagination, even without physical proof. In 2019, Babylon was formally inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognition of both its extraordinary historical importance and the ongoing challenges of protecting a site that has endured war, looting, and decades of instability in the region. Modern archaeology continues to reshape what we know. New excavations, new translations of cuneiform tablets, and new analysis of the Nabonidus Chronicle keep refining the picture, separating piece by piece what is firmly supported by evidence from what remains legend, elaboration, or later religious storytelling. What's certain is this: beneath that desert sand lies one of the most studied, most mythologized, and most historically significant cities human beings have ever built. The walls that once seemed impossible to breach are now broken stones beneath the desert sun. The gate that once announced the power of gods and kings now stands rebuilt behind glass in a museum, thousands of miles from where it was built. The river that carried Persian soldiers beneath Babylon's defenses has shifted its course so many times that its ancient channel is barely traceable at all. And yet, thousands of years later, Babylon still refuses to disappear.
It lives on in scripture, in the writings of Herodotus and Xenophon, in clay cylinders unearthed from the dirt, in the imagination of every person who has ever pictured a hanging garden that may never have existed at all. It lives on as a warning, too. A reminder that no wall is truly unbreakable, and no empire, however certain of its own permanence, is guaranteed to last. Babylon fell, not because an enemy was stronger. It fell because for one single night, it stopped believing it needed to be careful at all. And in the end, that may be the most human story of all.